Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com here with another episode of the Rogue Market. Again, this isn't going to be any snazzy editing. Those are going to have to wait till February when I have more time to spend on YouTube. You can notice I didn't even do a top 10 video. I need to do that for Oath of the Gatewatch because there's some awesome Rogue cards for brewing in Oath of the Gatewatch. But we will get back to a regular schedule. In fact, I've got a schedule in the rough draft of I want to do daily videos with different categories to hit kind of my entire experience with Magic the Gathering, because I'm more than just a rogue deck builder. I play both competitively and casually, love Commander, love Draft, love a lot of things. So anyway, we're going to try to hit a whole basis. But I just want to give this market alert here. We're going to talk about kind of what the money grab is here with all these moderns post-banning. So the hole that Splinter Twin left, banning Splinter Twin and Summer Bloom, we've just seen a huge buying spree, just insane amount of cards that have just gone crazy. Look at this weekly change. Usually the modern, you only see this like after, you see this in standard sometimes after rotation, and you see this after a Pro Tour when a Pro Tour deck is won. You'll see some prices go insane, but this is just very peculiar, I guess. This is a money grab. This is a bunch of vendors trying to buy out a bunch of stocks, and we already have evidence for that. Like, I can show you an example of that, how one particular vendor is trying to set the price of a card to incredibly high. So right now what is happening is people are trying to figure out what the deck is going to be, what the tier 1 deck is going to be, or what's going to win the Pro Tour. And a lot of people have put their money on Tron and Affinity. So Tron especially, you're seeing a lot of the prices just go insane, and Affinity I don't think is too far behind, except that Affinity has had massive reprints in most of their staples. Tron has as well, but so then you also get to see like the hate cards for Tron start to go crazy. So I am very worried about the state of Modern right now because it's just unfeasible. I'll show you why. And I I do an episode called Playing on a Budget, but because at one point in time I was a budget player. Now that I've acquired a huge collection and I own a store or co-own a store, and I have multiple modern decks, it's usually if I need a card or need a deck, it's quite easy for me to put it together. But even lately, like, I want Horizon Canopies, and I just can't justify cannibalizing so many cards to get Horizon Canopies for this Abzan and Flicker deck that I want to play. And then it's just like really making me want to play Brushland over Horizon Canopy, because is Brushland or is Horizon Canopy worth $60 more? Is the value of drawing a card $60 more than just a Brushland? Like what Brushland is just a regular land, like similar to the Shivan Reef or the Llanowar Waste, where you can tap it for a white and a green and then take 1 damage, or tap it for a colorless. So it's really good with Eldrazi because you can get that colorless. But Horizon Canopy is just a strict upgrade because then you can sacrifice it to draw a card. So anyway, oh, it's right here. You can actually even see Horizon Canopy. There it is. So pay 1 life, add green or white your mana, and then sacrifice Horizon Canopy, draw a card. So it's just, we'll look at some of these decks that these go into, but I just want to talk about, like, what is the future state of Modern? How healthy are we in Modern? Can this sustain itself when cards that were just printed in Modern Masters 2 have gone through the roof? Now, that's exactly what I want to talk about right now. Before we get into everything else, is maybe it's time to reinvest in Modern Masters 2. Now, Modern Master 2 was a huge dud. It was, I think the biggest problem is people were really ticked off at the packaging. The foils look like crap. A lot of the cards you get out of the packs are not near mint. There is a lot of whiting on the edges. The quality of the cards was just abysmal. They overprinted the set, or at least we thought they overprinted the set, but now we're actually starting to see that maybe they had the right perfect amount of printing, because I'm thinking that we are going to start seeing some huge price gains in a lot of the staples. So let's just bring up, this is why I like MCG Goldfish a lot, or anything else that has price data. You can see if you, all the way back from the release of Modern Masters, when the set first came out, it was worth about $1,000 for a complete set. And now you've seen the cards just continue to go down and 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 down until about I think the low point for Modern Masters was Christmas Day. No, Christmas Eve was the low point for a complete set of Modern Masters 2. And then we saw the rise of the Eldrazi, haha, pun intended, of these Eldrazi decks in Modern start going crazy. And that lifted the price of Eye of Ugin and the Eldrazi Temple. So now we have like another uncommon that's actually worth quite a bit. The Eldrazi Temple is $7.50. The Eye of Ugin is still going nuts around $35 because now it's used in two heavily played decks, in Tron as well as in the Eldrazi. So now we've started to see a bunch of these other cards catch up. So we've seen Tarmogoyf just continue to go down in value, and Karn Liberated and Mox Opal continue to go down in value, but now they are starting to recover. Mox Opal, of course, is a 4 of in plenty of decks, and a 4 of in one of the most played decks, which is Affinity, and Karn Liberated is now going to be in a 4 of in probably the most played deck in Tron. So I think that if you can still pick up boxes for relatively cheap, you see these go on eBay for around $200 every now and again for Modern Masters 2015 edition, it might be worth to invest it. Now, I don't know the exact estimated value of a deck. It still might not be anywhere near 200, but I think the last time I did it was around like 170. And so if the prices of these cards continue to increase, then the 170 will start to outstretch, or the value of the decks can start to outstretch the price of the box, and we're going to see a buyout of the Modern Masters. The vendors will just start opening them to sell the pieces. So for the last few months, all of this has been, you saw a lot of red arrows going down and very few green arrows going up, and now we're starting to see a ton of cards going up, even like Hurtkrow's Recall and its Champion, which are both with the Affinity matchup, are going to start to increase in value. So one of these cards I want to talk about, where is the ethical line do you draw? Like, a vendor does have every right to speculate or to do whatever with their stockpile. Star City Games, of course, in the past has annoyed me because they do massive buyouts. They really, really, really throw their weight around with purchasing cards. We saw it with Tarmogoyf in Modern Masters 1, and before Modern Masters 1, we watched them change the price of every fetch land from, I believe, the Breeding Pool, or the Misty Rainforest and Scalding Tarns were going for under 35, and they bought up every copy of them under 35 and set a market value for 35, and then did the same for the Marsh Flats. And I remember I was crying about it because Marsh Flats and Arid Mesas you could get for like $7-8, and then Star Seas did that massive buyout the first time up to $15 and literally set the market price to $15 because they bought up every vendor, every eBay, every TCG player up to the $15 mark. And then they did the same with the Misty Rainforest and Scalding Tarn up to 35. And then they did it again later on to, I believe, 35 and 50 respectively. So it's only cartels like Star City Games that have the money to do so. You can't even, I don't think you could, it's just impossible for just a single user to have that kind of capital to do so. So at the time, Star City Games justified themselves saying they were trying to keep their legacy format healthy, and Tarmogoyf was a huge part of legacy, and so were the fetch lands, and so they wanted to make sure they had enough stock to keep their to be able to sell to their legacy players. But now here we go. We're on another buyout by Star City Games. Star City Games has set the arbitrary price to Fulminator Mage. I doubt they're sold out. This is just another trick by Star City Games saying that they are sold out, but really what they're trying to do is they're trying to create a market hype. If the largest vendor is sold out of Fulminator Mages, then therefore there must be a bazillion buyers. No speculator buys from Star City Games. No, they're always the highest price. So when you're looking to increase your profits, you don't go and buy from the high price. You go to TCG, you go to eBay, you go to all these obscure sites first, not Star City Games. So maybe a bunch of people have just bought from Star City Games, but Star City Games has an insane stock. I'm not joking. Like, I have traveled with cool stuff before and just seen the amount of money that they bring to a GP to buy cards. Now, let me give you a little bit of how the market works. Grand Prix are not selling sprees; they're buying sprees. Vendors come to Grand Prix and other huge tournaments to buy cards to fill back up their stock, not to sell cards to get rid of their stock, because it's one of those times where you have a lot of gamers, of players willing to sell their cards for low because they're trying to pay for side events. They're trying to buy like play mats and get cards to get their artists to sign. I mean, then you have to go out to dinner. There's like lots of expenses involved. People have already cashed out or spent a lot of money to play in the events, and then they need money and, you know, hotel room expenses, things like that. And so it's a buying spree for these vendors. And so they bring up upwards to like hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm not joking. More than hundreds of thousands of dollars. I would say that Star City Games approaches million in just cash that they bring to buy cards at Grand Prix. So a lot of times these vendors, especially just after a huge Grand Prix, they're going to have a ton of stock. And especially, you can't tell me that Fulminator Mage is really sold out. So right now, too, their buy list of Fulminator Mage is $27.99. So that is, of course, if you could just sell. Usually, Star City Games is also notorious for having the lowest buy list because they just have the biggest market share. There's more people actually looking at Star City Games than there is any other site. I mean, they get massive traffic, and they have a lot of people that are very loyal to Star City Games, so they'll just go and buy list everything to the Star City Games. And that means that all the other vendors have to try to be more competitive and have a lower spread than Star City Games, so that means they're buying it higher and selling it lower than Star City Games. So Star City Games has a $27.99 buy list. That means that they're doing this across the board, and they're buying out every copy of Fulminator Mage probably under $30, so they can jack up the price on their own site. So we can debate the ethics of this. I used to get a lot of flack when I used to play World of Warcraft because I was the auction house guru at the time, and I used to get all these nasty comments and nasty emails from people telling me what a horrible person I was because I would quote-unquote control the market. But what actually vendors do is they do give some sense of stability. So now with Star City Games and all these people, they have set a market value, and if it doesn't sell, they're going to have to decrease their price. What happens if like things like Star City Games do not exist and it was just a whole player market is we'd see major market shifts, like Fulminator Mage going from $10 all the way to $100. But since there are major vendors, you don't see the extreme lows, you don't see the extreme highs. So all in all, they take the brunt for a while, like they take the loss for a while to have more stable gains in the long term. So I'm kind of on the edge unless like Star City Games or these other vendors are just playing this really long-term route, like, oh, in 5 years we'll make back our profit, because that does hurt the game. That does hurt players wanting to get into Modern, because now it's going to be very hard for a new player to build Living End, as it requires 4 Fulminator Mages, or even Jund now is another $50 piece that they need to combat Tron. And the price of Modern is just gone way too high, and I'm going to show you that right now. Let's go to the metagame in Modern, and you can't even build tier 2 lists for under $700. Look at this. Even Infect is above $700. Ad Nauseam is approaching the $400. Ad Nauseam has nothing in it. This is like budget beyond budget. It uses like temples in this deck, and Ad Nauseam is even approaching the $300 mark. Yeah, Gemstone Mind, which is an uncommon, is $30. It's just, wow. Yeah, this is where it gets very scary when a tier 2 strategy like Ad Nauseam has gone up to the point where you have to fork out $400 for it. Let's see some other these tier 2, tier 3 strategies. Yep, Living End, which I've done for playing on a budget in the past, is up to $650. Abzan up to $1,800. Jund is still around that $2,000 mark. There's another Abzan at the $2,000. Affinity now at $1,000. Twin is dead, but the pieces in Twin are still fine. And these are increasing in value. They're not decreasing in value. Death and Taxes $400. Yeah, this is a scary time for Modern, just because it might just go to the Legacy. What made it so Legacy, people quit playing Legacy, was the price of Legacy. And we need to keep a healthy, I think that a tier 1, the most expensive deck, I think a goal for Wizards for the most expensive deck should be around $1,000. And I think that that's reasonable because I think that standard can safely go to $500 for the most expensive. And we're talking about this most expensive, not the average. I think that a good rule of thumbs for Wizards for the most expensive, these are college students that predominantly play Modern and predominantly play Magic. You can't afford more than that. Even me, that's a hardcore player, has trouble affording over. I mean, this is a huge chunk of my livelihood is Magic the Gathering, and it's still hard for me to pick up pieces for specific decks. So I think $1,000 is a good. I think it's their ethical responsibility for Magic or Wizards to try to keep it under $1,000, and then you keep standard under $500, and that's where these box sets like the dual decks really should have included fetch lands now for quite a while. All these rares that are highly played in Modern should have enough reprints to make the game healthy. Now, there will always be, if you reprint one card, that means another card will always go up in value because that will mean that people will be able to afford the deck. And I don't know, I don't think it hurts vendors too much because, again, if one card decreases another card will increase. So say if they make fetch lands more accessible, that means the cards that the fetch lands are enabling, which is every deck in Modern, will go up in price because that means people start building those decks now rather than holding off. So I don't know. Inquisition of Kozilek, when we have commons like Curse Catcher, Inquisition, Path to Exile, which Path to Exile has been reprinted a bazillion times, $10, $15, and $25 respectively. That's a huge problem. I thought that when they said a card was going to be uncommon, that means it's a high chance of reprints in these subsequent sets. I think that not putting Inquisition of Kozilek in the Battle for Zendikar versus or Zendikar versus Eldrazi deck was a huge problem. There was 3 of them though in that Modern event deck. So if you can find a Modern event deck still running around, which is that black-white tokens deck, it's worth it to buy now. Very worth it. So anywho, this isn't going to be much about what you should spec into now. This is just kind of amusing about the price of Modern. I guess this could be the price of Modern is too damn high video. And I'm going to try to look at, oh yeah, the whole reason I did this is let me show you how crazy this is. Now I'm kicking myself. I can't feel too badly. If a bunch of remember, I bought 300 copies of Stony Silences at 0.5 cents a piece. I bought them, I believe it was here is when I bought them. Was it Cons I bought them, or was it back in Theros I bought them? But I bought Stony Silences. Oh, it was clear back here. It's 0.05 cents a piece. So 5 cents a piece is when I bought into Stony Silences. And then I sold them, I believe here-ish is when I started running out of money around Origins, or maybe it was Zendikar again. Yeah, I really started running out of tickets, and I sold out my Stony Silences at 2.5 a piece. So I was okay with making 100 times my value. But oh man, am I kicking myself. I could not foresee that Stony Silence was going to go up to $7. So this is absurd for a rare in even in MTGO. So kicking myself for not holding on to my Stony Silences. I remember people laughed at me for when I invested in a Stony Silence because they told me a sideboard card would never be worth money. Well, look what's $12 in paper now. Stony Silence, I still have I think I have about 12, 15 copies of Stony Silence just, out of holding on to them rather than bulking them in Innistrad. They were easy to pick up back in the day for 50 cents. And I'm going to sell out of my Stony Silences now at 12. It is a sideboard card. It is a card that has such a bland name. What I mean by that, generic name, that this card is so simple to reprint. This is the easiest card in the world just to say, hey, oh man, we need to reprint this card. Slap it in any set. What you do, and this is what Inquisition of Kozilek had the problem with, was they said they couldn't put Inquisition of Kozilek in the standard set because all of Kozilek and all of Eldrazi cards were devoid, and Inquisition of Kozilek was not devoid. And so you can see how that's a problem with a specific name, Kozilek, who is now deceased, quote unquote. It's gonna be very hard to reprint that card. So anywho, it's a card like this though that is on the high radars that at $12 is going to have to be reprinted. And so we're going to look at other cards like this or other cards that cannot be reprinted that have more name specific that we can get into at very cheap. So that'll be our next episode of this. But I just wanted to shed some light onto the insane prices of the modern games. We're seeing a lot of these staples just go crazy. So check your binder, see if you have any of these, or it might be a good time if you're looking just to be safe to get out of a lot of modern. After the Pro Tour, if certain decks do not do well, I do expect a crash of those particular archetypes, and of course an increase of the archetypes that did well. So keep your eye on Jund, keep your eye on Affinity, keep your eye on Tron especially. Anyway, this has been Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.